You're listening to the Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast. If it's post-apocalyptic, we're talking about it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to this 46th episode of the Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast. I'm your host, Shawn. I'm the senior editor at postapocalypticmedia.com. And, I wasn't here last week, had a little bit of a voice problem, which, is a big deal when you're a podcaster. So I wasn't able to record, but it was it was kind of a light week, but this week is big. There's a lot of news, and I'm going to touch on a little bit from last week as well. Some of the big stuff that, maybe you missed. It's already been a week, so hopefully you already saw it on the site, but I'll just wrap it up here for your sake. As for things I've been watching, wow, not really a lot, have to be honest. There's a lot of news, actually. We'll get to that in a second, but one big show that I was just starting to get back into is now canceled. Yeah, we'll get into that here in a little bit. But let's get into the news here. Let's just kick right into it, right? We don't want to talk about what we've been doing and all that stuff. Let's just kick right into it. And look at this. I have a new little thing here that I'm going to try out. We'll see how this goes. Look at that. Look at that guy's face. So this first bit of news is about Attack on Titan. This is big news. The show ended. Well, it didn't end. A lot of people thought it ended at part 1 of season 4, right? And that was actually episode 16. They considered it that, those 16 episodes, kind of that first part. Well, part 2 has been highly anticipated. Some people thought originally that the show wasn't going to come back. They thought, once it aired, they knew it was coming back. But, toward the beginning of the season, they thought this was going to be the last part of it. So anyway, there's a part 2, and it is for season 4. And you can see me scroll. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Look at this. It's like technology. Am I right? Hope that's not distracting. But so the next episode will air on Sunday, January 9th, 2022. That's in a few months. And you can either call it season 4, episode 17, or you can call it season 4, part 2, or some people are even calling it Attack on Titan season 5 because it's been so long since the last episode. So no matter what you want to call it, it's coming out on January 9th, and that's on NHK, which is the channel in Japan that broadcasts Attack on Titan. They say it will premiere at 24:05, which is about 12:05 a.m. Japanese Standard Time on January 9th. And Stephanie wrote this article. She points out that that's actually a little earlier than part 1. All the part 1 episodes came out in season 4. So it's interesting stuff. It's a huge, for the first couple seasons, the show really took off. And now it is just a monstrosity. And every time we write something on the site, we get tons and tons of traffic. We have a lot of people on our Discord from the Attack on Titan community, and it's a really cool thing to see. That it's so big and so active. And here's a schedule for this is for the OVA specials. If you can see that, probably not. Well, yeah, you probably can. October 24th, November 7th, November 4th. So it's like every week. The special omnibus night 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the No Regrets part 1 and 2. Go to the site, check this out. I don't know that much about Attack on Titan. I never really got into it that much, but Stephanie is the one who covers all of that, and she knows her stuff. Let me tell you, she knows her stuff when it comes to Attack on Titan. So check that out. Next bit of news here is, speaking of new episodes and things that are ending, The Walking Dead, of course, this is the last season 11, and episode 8 came out last week. Well, it was a couple weeks ago if you had AMC Plus, And I did a little write-up on it and everything. I know I talked about it on the show, and I really enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying season 11 so far. But a lot of people are saying, where's episode 9? Is that something that we are going to see soon? Well, let me answer that question for you. In February 22nd, I believe. Yeah, the 20th. February 20th, 2022. It's a lot of 20s. Will be the next episode of The Walking Dead. And that, of course, is episode 9 of season 11. Now, if you have AMC Plus, you can get it a week early on February 13th. It might be worth it. I mean, I subscribe to it because AMC Plus has a lot of great stuff, and this isn't a commercial for AMC Plus, but it's only $8.99 a month. And, I'm not subscribed to it right now. I literally canceled it as soon as The Walking Dead was done, and then I'm going to re-up in February. And I'm going to, I imagine a lot of people do that. But while it was on, there were a lot of other good shows I was watching on there. So we have the 13th or the 20th, depending on if you subscribe or not. And it's going to run, that whole season is going to run until, that chunk of the season is going to run until April 10th. So when I say chunk, what I'm talking about is they're doing 8 episode chunks. So the first 8 episodes came out, let's see, I think I did no, I didn't do. I thought I did like a little guide to which ones came out when. But I did do, as you can see here, reviews for each episode, and I'm going to keep doing that, once the next parts come out. So anyway, the first 8 episodes were chunk 1, and then we have the second chunk. I just keep saying chunk 2, which will be April 10th through, I think it runs until like October or something like that of next year. Oh no, it'll probably be like July. But anyway, so this one began on August 22nd. And then they're going to do a third chunk, which will probably be the end of the year. There's no official word on when that'll be, but I'm guessing it'll be, there's a couple months between each chunk. And that chunk will be probably toward the end of the year. So we might see Walking Dead ending, December, somewhere around there, the end of 2021. Or it might bleed into 2023. I don't know. They have a lot of stuff going on right now, which I'll actually talk about the next. Well, let me talk about it right now. I can just do that. This is my show, right? I can just go to the next thing, right? Okay, so let me do that. So we'll go to the next thing, the next announcement, which is a continuation of the Walking Dead universe, which is Tales of the Walking Dead. Now, there's a lot going on in the Walking Dead universe. We have Walking Dead, right? We have Fear the Walking Dead. We have World Beyond. We have, and those are still going on. I think World Beyond is on its last season also. Fear the Walking Dead is, there's no end in sight, I don't think. And then we have the trilogy, the Rick Grimes trilogy, which will be there's not a lot out about that, but it's supposed to tell the story of Rick once he's taken away on the helicopter. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen that yet. So it's his story. And then we have the comedy. Oh yeah, there's a comedy. I don't know how I feel about that. I guess it'll depend on how they do it. But the fact that there's a comedy, I don't know. I guess we'll see, but it's one of those things I'm really, really skeptical about. Then we have the Daryl and Carol spinoff, which should be amazing. There have been parts of this season and last season that have basically been a Daryl and Carol spinoff. Well, especially last season. And then we have this Tales of the Walking Dead anthology. What else do we have? There's supposed to be a villain spinoff. I feel like I'm missing something. This is all off the top of my head. But anyway, so Tales of the Walking Dead is an anthology series which will kind of go over backstories on existing characters, people we've already met. It'll also go over new characters. So there will be a couple new introductions. They say that they want to keep it in the same universe, so I imagine, I don't know if they'll pick up on maybe comic book characters, that were in the comics that they haven't featured on the show yet, or any of the shows. I don't know, but I think it's interesting because I love backstories, and you think about some of the characters who haven't had a lot of just like meat in the show that they've been doing, and you see them just for a second, and maybe they were in the comics, not so much on the show, and you're like, wait, I want to know more about that person. Well, that's what they did. They got together, and this right here is actually a good example. Meek Deadhead, this person on Twitter, put characters that need to appear in Tales of the Walking Dead. Abraham, Glenn, it's at Alpha, and I forgot this guy's name. What kind of fan am I, right? But I think that's funny. Glenn is an obvious one, right? I mean, we want to see more about Glenn. We saw Glenn since episode 1. He's been in the show a long, long time. But it would be great to see more about him. And maybe even like, I don't know if they're going to do like backstories as far as before the apocalypse, which would make the show not apocalyptic. Or if they're going to do like, what these people did in the time between seasons. Because there was, obviously time between seasons that went on. And so they don't actually have a release date for this. They just say next summer, in quotes. Well, we're going to have a busy time in the Walking Dead universe. We're going to have all these shows I just named, and they're in the next couple of years. We're still going to be just saturated with so much Walking Dead stuff. Will we get tired of it? I don't know. I think a lot of people got tired of it in the middle there, and maybe they're coming back. So maybe this variety will help spice things up a little bit. All right, now let's go on to the next little bit of news, which is Resident Evil. There is a board game coming on October 26th. That's next week. October 26th is next week. And the game itself isn't coming, but the Kickstarter is coming. Maybe I should clarify that. The Kickstarter. So you can support this game on Kickstarter, and what it looks like to me, there are a lot of games like this where they're kind of like you go through the different rooms in the house. It's kind of like a tabletop RPG, and when you go through each room, you can move the room pieces, and you put little doorways and stuff, and it's very like Warhammer and D&D and things like that. And there's miniatures too, and so you get to play as these characters who are going through and solving these mysteries in this mansion. What's it called? It's called some kind of the Spencer Mansion. Yeah. And so they've been wanting a board game for a long time. A board game has been kind of in the back of their minds. I mean, the franchise itself has been around since '96 with the first game, and they've had many games since then. They've had movies, and so this is kind of the first time that we're doing a board game. It seems to make sense, especially on Kickstarter. There's a big movement right now with kickstarted board games. I have contributed to many of these. I have board games here at home that that are straight from Kickstarter, and great games too. I've been happy with everything I've gotten so far, but there are ones that I haven't gotten yet. That maybe 2 years ago when I was on this kickstarting board game kickstarting kick, they and so now a couple years later, I'm going to start getting these games when they ship, and I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I remember that game. One of them is Radlands, which I talked about I think last year. I'm excited to get that one. It's supposed to be coming pretty soon. When I get it, maybe I'll do a little bit of a open box reveal or something on the podcast. That'd be cool. Anyway, so if you're a Resident Evil fan, check this out. They have puzzles in there. There's clues. It's very mystery house, mystery mansion kind of a game. Looks pretty cool. All right. Last Stand Aftermath is a game we've talked about on the podcast a long time ago. I think it was last year probably. It's a game. It's a pretty interesting game. Derek and I were talking about it on the podcast, and the whole premise of the game is you are a group of survivors. Like, yes, you collectively are a group of survivors collectively, and you play each character who leaves their, I guess it's not really like a vault, it's like a shelter, like a survival shelter, and you leave that shelter to go kill a bunch of zombies, and you have to there's certain goals you have to do. I don't know for sure, they don't explain it that much, but you go out and you have to do these certain things, right? Well, the thing is, you're infected. Everyone is infected. Every character you play is infected. So when you go out to do your little goal, you're going to die. It's inevitable that you're going to die, but you have to make the most of your time, of your last. That's why it's called Last Stand. You have to make the most of your little bit of time you have left. And what you're doing is you're building. You're kind of building up the story for the next person. So you go out, you die, you get killed by zombies, whatever, and then you restart as the next person in line who has to go out, the next infected who has to go out and fight as many zombies, kill as many zombies as you can before you turn into a zombie. Because, there's a difference between being infected and being turned into a zombie, right? So I think that's interesting from that point of view, because you are, you're not just playing as a character that you will relate to, or that you will, you get attached to characters, right? Just throw all that out the window, because this is just a game where you're playing as each person. Each person is pretty disposable, but it's the end goal is what matters. This game is another one that got kickstarted last year. September. It started, and I think it ended in October, right about this time last year. It had a $50,000 goal, and it got up to 60,269, as you can see here. Let me play this little video here. I should be able to play this without a strike, I'm hoping. Let me just skip around here. I just want to show you the gameplay. Let's check this out. Where's this gameplay? Okay, there you go. Look at that. Look at that car. That was cool. So it's a beautiful game, right? I mean, it's very impressive. And for that to be something kind of set in a, very Project Zomboid, which I'm a big fan of Project Zomboid. It's kind of that gameplay where you're just facing hordes and hordes of zombies. You get to the point with some of those games where you're like, I can't even continue. So you have that, plus you have your goal, and then you have the fact that you're not going to die and come back. I guess Project Zomboid's like that too. There's permadeath in Project Zomboid, so I guess it's similar. It's just much more beautiful. Now here's the thing too: is this game is actually based on a series of games. I think it was from the early 2000s, called The Last Stand. It's like this Last Stand series, and they were Flash games. Remember Flash? Remember Adobe Flash? That was the cool thing to make games in the early 2000s. And then Steve Jobs decided he didn't like Flash, and so Apple users all hated Flash. And I don't know. I don't think Flash is still around. I think Adobe gave up on it. But that's what the original games were. They were Flash games, which were very basic, but still fun. I never played any of those original games, but the guy who made it, Chris Condon, however you pronounce his name, his nickname is Con, which is where they get the name of the developers, Con Artist Games. You get it? Con Artist Games. So he's still working on it. He's still the original guy is still working on the part 5. Basically, it's the 5th game in the series. So good news for fans of that. Definitely very cool. All right, let's see. This last bit of news here that I have is why The Last Man. It's been canceled. It's been canceled by FX. Here's the thing. I say that probably on this show a lot. There's a lot of speculation on why it was canceled. Hulu is, okay, so the show is on FX on Hulu. So to watch it, it's actually on FX, but you have to watch it through Hulu. Hulu is owned by Disney now. Disney bought Hulu last year, a couple years ago. So a lot of people are saying, this is what the showrunner, the creator of the show, has said in her little tweet here. Well, she didn't say it in this tweet, but I think people have said it on Reddit or something like that, where, when Disney bought Hulu, this show was in production, and it kind of wasn't one of the parts of the deal. They finished it. They did season 1, and then Disney said, I don't think we're going to continue this. I don't know if the numbers are bad. I don't know anything about it. There's lots of speculation. People are all over the place on why this could have happened, but you can say that it's devastated a lot of people people who work on it, of course, it's devastated them, but a lot of people are hardcore fans of the comic. You have to remember this was a comic book, a highly successful comic book, and to take that, make it into this show, which is really, I've only watched the first episodes. Like I said at the beginning of this show, I just started getting back into it. Like I'm like, I'm going to continue watching this show. I'm going to get back into it. And then cancellation alert. So maybe it's my fault. Maybe that's what it is. It's me. They were like, oh, is that Shawn guy? What's he doing? He's watching the show. He's enjoying it. We're going to cancel it. You think they'd believe that? No, I don't think so. But this article here, Bill wrote this one up. Bill is a big fan of the show, and he does all the reviews and recaps of each one of these episodes. He did one actually right after this news for the next episode of the season. It's just crazy. Like, there's also a what do you call that? A survey up to try to get people to sign on change.org petition survey to try to get the show back. Now, I have 100% faith that someone's going to pick this up. They're already working on season 2. I mean, season 2 was in the books, basically. It's one of those things that they were going to, not that it's done, but it's something that was kind of a sure thing, that there's going to be a next season. Because the comic books go on and on. We've only told the beginning of that comic book story in season 1, so it would make sense that it would keep going. Which is another devastation to fans of the whole, of the comic books and the show. Well, here's the thing. So someone's trying to pick it up. They're trying to say, please, one of you other networks pick it up. Netflix has done this a couple times. Amazon did it with, I forgot the name of that show. It starts with an E. The couple of these other streaming services have done this before, picked up shows that didn't last. Jericho was like that. Remember Jericho? It was such a great show. And it got canceled, and then someone picked it back up. So there's hope. There's hope that someone's going to pick it up, one of these other networks. And I think with the buzz that this show's getting right now, it's getting a lot of attention because of the cancellation and because of the fact that there's so much of the story left to tell. So I think someone's going to pick it up. I think that's a no-brainer, right? So, well, just stay tuned on that. I'm sure we'll have more to report on that in the coming future. In the coming future. There's a shirt right there, in the coming future. But, yeah, like I said, it's FX, Hulu, and Disney. And I would say it's probably not FX's fault or Hulu's fault. Might be Disney's fault. Disney has canceled some things recently, We won't talk about all of it, but they're pretty quick on the cancellation there. And I don't know if this is connected, but Disney stock has been plummeting lately. So, I think it's all because of this. Probably not. All right, last thing I want to talk about here is what's coming up this week and next week. The day, of course, that you're going to, the day this comes out is Friday, October 22nd. And today, the day you're listening to this, we have Dune. Dune is coming out. Of course, I can't talk about it on the show now because this is the past, and I'm talking about the future. I know it's Marty McFly stuff. But Dune is coming out on the 22nd. Huge movie. I cannot wait to see it. I already have tickets, so I'm pretty much set on that. Also, now, okay, you might for those saying right now, like, Dune isn't post-apocalyptic, it is. Just stop. Invasion is another show that's coming out on the 22nd. That is on Apple TV Plus. It's kind of like an alien show, alien apocalypse. Very cool looking show. I'm excited about that one. Same day, Friday. And then Warning, which is another kind of a space, apocalyptic space movie that's coming out on the 22nd. It's a big day. It's pretty big. So that next week on next podcast, I will have a lot to talk about. I'm probably not going to see. I'll probably see Invasion and Dune. Warning, I don't know if I'll see. We'll see how that goes. And then, of course, we get into November. We have Finch. The Tom Hanks movie is finally coming out, hopefully. We have Eternals, which is that the Marvel, the Avengers movie, kind of after Endgame, right? I think. I'm not a huge Marvel fan. I know. Don't throw things at me. But this looks really good. I'm going to check this out. And then, then later in November, we have like Future Boy Conan, which is coming on Blu-ray. Future Boy Conan is a cartoon that's really cool. I mean, it's like an anime it's an old cartoon, but it's very cool. That's coming out on Blu-ray. So we have a busy, a nice couple things to look forward to here in the next couple weeks, next week or two. All right. As you can see, as I scroll through this, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do this, you can see we have a lot of things on the site, right? A lot more than what I talk about. We have the YouTube Roundup, which is where every week I look at all the best post-apocalyptic videos on YouTube. A lot of them are indie short films, a lot of them, or gameplay videos. Gameplay videos are huge on YouTube, and there are so many post-apocalyptic games out right now. Just tons of them, and they're constantly coming out, especially like, Fallout Shelter kind of games and survival games, survival shooters. Huge thing right now on YouTube or in the gaming community and covered on YouTube. So I have that. We have reviews of all kinds of shows. We have Walking Dead World Beyond, Foundation, which is a great show. Stephanie does the reviews and recaps of those two shows. Why the Last Man is the one Bill does. We have Walking Dead is done, but I used to do that. Just tons of stuff on here. Here's some older news from last week. But yeah, if you're not on the site checking it out, you got to go check it out. We have way more news than we usually do here on the podcast. One more thing, though, this reminds me right here. I have the 10 last-minute ideas for the perfect post-apocalyptic Halloween costume. It's a good thing I'm a writer, right? It's a good thing I write and not make a podcast or anything. So this is a post I did about some ideas for. Okay, so Halloween is right around the corner, right? And a lot of people might be looking at making a costume, but you kind of start out with all these ideas of what you want to do, right? I do this every time, where you're like, I'm going to do this costume and it's going to have all this elaborate stuff. Well, now being the middle, almost the end, like the third week of October, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. Or like your friend invites you to a Halloween party and you're like, I don't have anything. So I wrote this article as kind of something to help you out with stuff you can buy on Amazon or Walmart, or God forbid, Spirit Halloween, which for any of you non-Americans watching this, Spirit Halloween is it's an okay little shop, but it's funny because it pops up like around September. They just pop up and you're like, wait, wasn't that a Goodies or last week, and now it's a Spirit Halloween? Like what? So it's these stores that just pop up for a couple months and then they leave, but they have all these great Halloween stuff. It's all Halloween. Anyway, a lot of the stuff you can find there, or Walmart or Amazon. We have Amazon links to a lot of it too. So here are my ideas. I'll just run through these really quickly. Zombie or mutant, right? Look at that. That is an amazing mask. $25 though. I would bet it doesn't look like that when you get it. So buyer beware. There's a mutant mask that is pretty cool looking. Again, we're not talking about cosplay. We're not talking about like Wasteland Weekend costumes or Dragon Con costumes. We're talking about, setting up your costume that you can buy real quick and just throw together, and I give some tips on here too, what you can do. Wasteland Raiders, the next one. This one I have spikes in there because, you could just throw together some old, shoulder pads and stuff you get from like a thrift shop, throw some spikes in there and you're a Wasteland Raider, right? This one, it might take a little bit of work to do this one, so it's not as instant. Desert Dweller. This is think like the Sand People in Star Wars, right? The Tusken Raiders, they're called. That's what this is. And you can even buy a Jedi costume. I know the Tuskens aren't Jedi, but you can buy a Jedi costume and just tear it up, fray the ends around the sleeves and everything and get a lot of dirt on it and kind of, do some spray paint and just get it really mucked up. And that can be your Desert Dweller costume, right? You have a lot of bags. Like what I've done before is you go to a thrift store and you buy like old leather purses, especially like tan or black purses, and you just, scrape them on the concrete and just rip them up and make them look like old distressed leather bags, and you have them hanging all over you and stuff. It's pretty cool. Speaking of that, if you're like, well, who's this guy? Why is he talking about Halloween costumes? Like, what does he know? This is a picture of me and my friends. This is me right here, if you can see. We are a tribe called the Farlanders, and we go out to Wasteland Weekend and just have fun. So this is our little tribe. We did this photo shoot. This is by Bane Grimm Photography, my buddy Blaine. This is an amazing shot. I love this shot, and I'm so glad I got to use it in an article because he did a great job with this. But that's an example of how we kind of decked ourselves out. There's the draped furs and leathers and cloth, and then we have a little bit of armor on the legs and stuff. So check out that photo. Anyway, back to this list. Wasteland Raider, Desert Dweller, and I talk about barge cement, which is the cement they use on the bottom of the shoes to make your shoes, the sole of your shoes, stick better. Great stuff. I use it all the time. Goggles. We also have Mercenary for hire, which is another one, kind of your ex-military guy. You can buy some airsoft guns, distress them, and ammo belt, stuff like that, and then and you're like ex-military, And I did this video here. This is my video. I did this a long time ago, but you can get a good example of how to distress a airsoft gun to make it look like the picture right there. Also, Lone Survivor. The Lone Survivor is going to have a lot of stuff. They're kind of like a nomad who, it's kind of like a Desert Dweller, but a Desert Dweller could be part of a group. I think Lone Survivor is more like just a guy or girl who just does everything themselves. Your favorite video game character, first thing you think of is probably Fallout. And I point out here, don't do all the basic stuff that everyone else is going to be doing. And I say that, and then I show pictures of the vault suit, so ignore that. But whatever your favorite post-apocalyptic game is, a lot of them are pretty easy costumes to make up, especially the Fallout ones. They have a lot of the accessories, as you can see here, readily available, including bottle caps. Look at that, and that New Vegas helmet and trench coat. Very cool stuff. Also, you can do your favorite TV or movie character, and I have Lucille here, Negan's bat, which is something you can purchase. It's foam, so you won't actually, if you hit your little brother in the head, it won't split open and their eyeball won't come out like what happened to Glenn. Sorry. What else? Post-apocalyptic version of pop culture character crossovers. Now, this is fun. I link some pictures in here. There's an Avengers. Let me see if I can go here. There's a Avengers group that did Post-Apocalyptic. There's a Scooby-Doo gang that did Post-Apocalyptic. And even Charlie Brown, right? Oh, yeah, here we go. Yeah, cookies. Anyway, that's the Avengers right there. Captain America has an interstate sign. It's very cool stuff. So we have that. There's, and I mentioned in here, why not do like a Harry Potter, like post-apocalyptic Harry Potter, right? And so there's a link to some Harry Potter robe right there you can check out. Arena Warrior is, like an ex-football player with a torn-up jersey and, shoulder pads and all this stuff, and you're just this badass guy who, fights in arenas. And Juggers, I do point out in here, the Juggers at Wasteland Weekend, it's a good example. Very heavily armored, close combat kind of stuff. Very cool. Scavenger is the next one. This is someone who, I guess it's like a post-apocalyptic hoarder. You have little trinkets hanging off of you everywhere, and you have a lot of bags. It might be a hot costume, as in temperature-wise. So, if you live in a colder climate, it'd be a good one. But be prepared to have a bunch of stuff hanging off of you. And it's very cool. It looks very, very post-apocalyptic. So that's my whole list. Just suggestions, 10 ideas I had and kind of ways to do them. So if you're watching this and you're like, I don't know what I want to be for Halloween, check out this article. It's very cool. Harry Potter says to check out this article. So there's that. All right. Well, that is going to do it for this episode. I want to thank everyone for checking this out, for watching, for putting up with me for a half hour, a little more than a half hour here. And I hope you check out the site if you haven't already, because there's a lot more news on there. And I will be back next week with some Dune stuff, hopefully Invasion and any other crazy news that happens between now and then. So thanks again for watching. And as always, be ready for the big one and stay alive out there. See ya.